Sai Ram and welcome back. Some of us who were here yesterday evening had the privilege of listening to Sister Arunima share some of her early experiences of getting admission into Swami's institution. I know that many of you have arrived either late last night or this morning, so for the benefit of those who have come, I'd like to say a few words again about Sister Arunima. She received her education in Swami's education institutions at Anantapur and has served as a member of the faculty in the Department of Philosophy in Anantapur for 16 years. Her family is a long-time devotee of Swami. Music has been a very important part of her life and part of the relationship with Swami, and she has participated in many, many music programs in the Divine Presence. We are indeed very fortunate that she's up again to share some of her experiences with her. Let us all welcome Sister Arunima. Sai Ram.
Salam to one and all. My pranams at the lotus feet of my Lord, my Mother. Once again, I'm fortunate to come here and stand to share some of my experiences with you all. I'm rather privileged, and especially after hearing such a wonderful, revealing talk from one of the great servants of Bhagwan, who also spoke about another servant of the Lord. I'm so thankful, Dr. Upadhyay. I'm sure whatever I'm going to speak at this moment will have a lot of similarities that you spoke. And I must say that when I thought of speaking what I should do it at this moment, back home, I didn't think or I didn't know Dr. Upadhyay is going to do the same. So it means to one thing, we all have the same source. We cannot forget that. And if we have to talk in terms of that, there will be a lot of similarities. And the experiences that we all have are very, very matching. So please pardon me if you're going to hear something very close to what is said at some point. But I'm once again thankful to all of you for giving this opportunity to me to share my experiences. Because I remember, excuse me, some time back, just before I left the college for good, once we had an interaction with Bhagwan. I should call it an interview. And in that he said, of course at that time I was not even in the corner of my mind, I had no idea to leave the college, and I didn't know that I was going to leave soon. But Swami knew it. And he looked at me and he said in that interview, we had a group of teachers interview, and then Swami looked at me and said, I know many of you will leave the institute and go elsewhere, very far from Prasanthi Nilayam. And how do you spread my message there? And he said, whatever are your experiences, whatever you have learned staying here, you must share them with the rest of them. You should, whenever you get a chance, you should share. And he said, that is the best way of, doing not just a service, but it is going to do a lot of good to you as well. So we, at that time, when Swami was telling this to us, I was thinking, this is not meant for me anyway. I'm not going to go anywhere. I'll be here. Maybe Swami wants me to share my experiences with my students. But now at this moment when I stand before you, I know exactly what Swami meant at that time when he said, share my experiences. It is like making everybody else read the scriptures. And these are his divine words. So I thought at this moment, I will deviate a little bit, having had the topic of this wonderful conference as love in action. I would like to share some of my thoughts in that connection, and including some experiences that I have had with Bhagwan. So I would like to begin quoting Swami's words when he said, love in thought is truth, love in feeling is peace, love in understanding is non-violence, and love in action is right action. And what he means by right action is nothing but service to mankind. Now, if you go back to the scriptures, we have a lot of mentioning of 9 paths of devotion, very significantly mentioned. They are Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Vandanam, Archanam, Dasyam, Sneham, and finally Atmanivedanam, which is self-surrender. I'm not repeating the meanings because I'm sure all of you are well acquainted with, because Swami off and on mentions these in his discourses. Now, my reason for mentioning this is that somewhere we have to search the path of service that is mentioned. So what is Pada Seva here? It is said in the scriptures, Padasya Vishyo Bhutani Tripadasyam Ritam Divi. All that glory, splendor that our Lord has is actually not manifested. It's only 1/4 of the glory of the Lord is manifested, and this is the universe. But the 3 other parts are unmanifested. So in simple terms, what he means by Pada Seva is nothing but service to mankind. Now, in this connection, Swami very often says that you practically go and serve people out there. And that will be actually the service. Now, I thought in my talk, apart from sharing my experiences, I would like to just mention some of the things that directly I have received from Bhagavan through interviews or some conversations or a little gathering with the students, however. And I thought they may be known to you, but I feel happy to share with you because I have got it from him directly. Now he says, the first thing, service is best of all yogas. Service is better than any prayer. It is the best type of prayer. Now to say this, that service is the best prayer, what do we do when we pray? We sit before the altar and decide that, yes, I have half an hour. This half an hour is exclusively meant for my prayer. Every day I sit at this time. Today also I am here. But as we sit, what happens? Our monkey mind starts running here and there. How much we pray, only we know. We think, yes, I'm getting late. I have to quickly have my breakfast. I have to go to work. I have a meeting today. I don't know how it's going to go. I am tensed up, so on and so forth. So half the time of our prayer goes in thinking these things. So how much we really pray? So Swami says, don't trust. Don't trust your prayers, and don't feel very happy that you have had a prayer because you spent that much time before the altar. Instead, go and serve. That is the best form of prayer. Prayer is for the unmanifested God. Service is for the manifested God. So it's easy to think of God when we serve than even to do a simple prayer. I don't mean to say that we don't pray. Many of us may be good at it. But most of us have these kind of experiences while sitting for prayer. And that is why Swami says that as the prayer comes from the heart, the service also should flow from the heart. That's very important aspect of service. And then, I'm sorry, again to quote Swami, he says, neither by penance nor by pilgrimages, neither by going through the sacred texts, nor by doing any other saying, in the sense, what he meant by saying in the sense like, chanting or reading, that we reach, or we can cross the ocean of this samsara, but it is only through action. It is only through service with love that we can cross this ocean. So service is very important. He gives, he used to talk of lots of these, he used to anecdotes and metaphors and similes, and Swami's discourses are also full of them. So some of them which touched my heart, I would like to mention that, he said, take the example of, when a thorn pricks your leg, what happens? The moment the thorn pricks, immediately your hand reaches down to remove the thorn because your hand feels the pain, your head is in pain, your whole body is actually feeling the pain that is actually caused by a thorn at your feet. Similarly, when you consider the whole world as a body of God, so if one part of it is in pain, you should feel the pain and try to remove that, So if you feel that God is in everything and God is present in the whole universe, then your service should be accordingly. So this is one thing he very often told us when I was a student especially. And then he said, of course, many people do service. I'm not going to compare with NGOs and other service activities that people do. They do wonderful, very effective service. But I must mention that when we do service under Sai umbrella, in the Sai fold, there is a little difference. And the simple and single difference that we have is that we do the service as a spiritual exercise. The spiritual attitude that we have in our mind while serving others, I think more than that you have heard just now from a wonderful speaker. And that is what is that which is important. That is, serving as a spiritual exercise. Now here I'm reminded of a story of 4 stonecutters. A question was put to one of the stonecutters that, why are you cutting stones? He said, well, I cut stones because I have to earn my livelihood. Then the same question was posed to another stonecutter, why are you cutting stones? And he says, I want to be the best stonecutters in the area. Professional excellence. And then the third was again asked, why are you cutting stones? And he says, I am cutting stone because I want to build a beautiful church for my God. That is the spiritual attitude. The act is same, but the attitudes are different. So Swami says, when you are in service, give 150% of your energy to it. Don't keep something back. So dedicate yourself. Now when he says dedication, he says it's not just the energy. It is your ego. You just throw it out. Forget who are you. Forget where you work. Forget how thirsty you are. Forget how hungry you are. Forget how tired you are. Because the moment you remember about yourself, you will not be able to put a hand to service. So service means forgetting oneself totally and then giving yourself to somebody else. It is like surrendering ourselves to those whom we want to serve. So that is the attitude that Swami expects from us. Now here, I would like to quote an incident. This happened years back in a state called Gujarat in India, when the state was severely damaged, devastated by an earthquake. A lot of people fell victim to it, and it was massive, one of the worst earthquakes for anybody to remember. And at that time, Swami had sent many important officials, people from Prasanthi Nilayam, with trucks load of things like, all the relief materials. And as he sent, at that time, we were fortunate to be called for an interview with Bhagwan, and then Bhagwan called us inside and he said, what do you do? How do you do service? When, I have sent, he was informing us how he sent people to the Gujarat and things like that. And then he said, how do you do service? The first thing he said was that never ever send any old used clothes to them. Something which Dr. Upadhyay mentioned. Never ever do that. He said, they are not poor people. They just fell victim. They are well-to-do people. You will only add to their misery if you send used clothes at that time. Never ever do it. If you can afford one pair of new clothes and send, but never try to serve people with your old used clothes. A very emphatic point that I marked at that time when Swami said. That was one thing. And then Swami also mentioned some other things about this Gujarat earthquake. He said, many people were doing service, like, they would take their vehicle, they would stop at one point and they would just throw the relief materials to the victims. And there would be a lot of chaos and confusion and, people were so very distracted, and finally how many would get food, how many wouldn't, was a question. But those volunteers from Sai organization who went there, they pitched tents. They made a tent city all around, called those victims, made them feel relaxed. They even helped the old people and children by combing their hairs or giving them some, help or the other. That was really remarkable. And that could be possible maybe only, under Swami's guidance. That's what he mentioned at that time. So Swami says, whenever you serve, remember one thing. The giver's hand is always at the upper level and the receiver's hands are always at the lower level. And this makes, the giver, automatically the giver gets a ego that I am giving you. We don't give it from down, we give it from top. So it makes us feel that I am the giver. He says, you are never the giver. That hand that is working, it is not crippled at that moment to serve. It's all because of me. Because I am within you, making your hand work to give. So he says, even these little things, if you remember at the time of service, perhaps we can do service in a much better effect. And the outcome also is much better. So that is one thing. And I remember this, during the Grama Seva that has been going on in Prasanthi Nilayam, about which I would like to talk a little later. Swami again had called us for an interview just before the Gram Seva, and then it was the students and the teachers that are involved doing that. And he was telling us how to do. He said, each and every one of you that goes to serve those villagers entered their house without a footwear. Do not wear your footwear even. You enter as if you're entering a temple. Go to them, give them the material that I send you with, the food, the clothes, and many other things, and tell them that Swami has sent you with love. So please accept this. And as many as they want you give, do not try to count the heads and say, oh, you have got this, you haven't. Don't worry if they waste. Don't worry, wherever it goes. Your attitude is to give them with humility and do that. So he used to time and again tell this. Almost every year he tells the students the same. And he says, it is I who is actually giving through you. That was one important thing I thought. So here, again to quote Swami, he says, bear all and do nothing. Hear all and say nothing. Give all and take nothing. Serve all and be nothing. So this I would like to touch as a first aspect or prerequisite of my talk on service today. Humility. The attitude of humility. I'm not going to describe what is humility, how much, what, because all of us know. But what Swami exactly tells about humility, he says, be humble to that extent that you touch the hearts of those whom you serve. Your humility should touch their hearts. That is one thing. And in this connection, he says, you are able to be humble, because sometimes it is difficult for a person to be humble. He says, you have to practice that humility. And how do you do it? He says, all that is negative in you, throw it out. Once you throw the negative, automatically the positive will come up. And the positive you don't have to learn from books or people. It's already there within you. It is just the negative is covering the positive. So all the negative attitude, you take it out, the positive will automatically flourish. And that will help you to be more humble. So this is a very important thing I learned from Swami about humility when he said, so this attitude of humility. And he says, even when you take up a service act, supposing you go to clean a temple or you go to clean a place, do not ever consider this is a superior act and that is demeaning, that is inferior. No act is superior, no act is inferior. Everything is same in the eyes of God. So do not sit and judge, this is good, that is bad, after you went to serve somebody or something. He said, never do that. Blindly go on serving as much as you can, as long as you can. So another aspect of humility, he says here. And he says that, don't you clean your own houses, your floors? Don't you sweep and mop? When you can do in your own house, why can't you do somewhere else, the streets? Why should you feel egoistic at that time? Many of us may not like to take the broom in hand and sweep across the street. It might hurt our ego. But if it is necessary, we should do it. Swami says that is how you throw your ego out of you. So that is another important thing. And then he said, in this connection, he says it is the readiness, the joy, the efficiency, and the skill that you have or you show while doing the service. That's important. After humility comes selfless service. Once we are humble, perhaps we'll be able to be more selfless in our attitude. So in this connection, Swami says that first thing when you serve another person, try to feel the oneness. And how to feel that oneness? When you are helping somebody, feel that it is the same God who resides in me, does reside in the other person also. So once we have the feeling of this oneness, it becomes easier, because I want to see my God in him or her whom I'm serving. So feeling of oneness will automatically come at this point. Now here I would like to, I'm reminded of one little incident. Once, I think in Delhi, there was a big clinic. Doctors had kept a clinic, and then the center, Sai Center wanted to have a medical clinic, and they wanted to run it every weekly, And then they came to Puttaparthi, they told Swami, and Indulal Shah himself was actually telling Swami about it, and Swami was very happy. Swami said, okay, please carry on, it's a wonderful thought that you got. And then as they went, Swami called Indulal Shah back and said, you report to me how they are doing after 1 week, after 2 weeks, he said. And they started the clinic, and 2 weeks everything went on very well. And then Indulal Shah came and reported Swami that Swami, things are going on well, everybody is serving well, and all the detailed report. Swami was very happy. He said, come after 3 weeks and tell me how it's going on. And then after 3 weeks, Indulal Shah went, he was a little silent. Then Swami said, what happened? Then he said, Swami, well, I must say that things are not going that well. People are busy, they cannot make it sometimes. Swami said, there you are. You start with so much of force and enthusiasm and with all heart and soul, but what happens? Overnight, it just goes down. Why does that happen? Why is it that you're not able to continue, even if you started with all positive, good, humble attitude, with all good things in your mind, but you are not able to continue with these service activities. Once you do it, you feel that's enough. Again, sometime later, he says, this is not the way to do service. And then he said something very nice at this point. He said, you know why this happens? It's because we always have something as an expectation in return. We do service, somewhere we want something in return, in whatever form. And when we don't get even a little, handshake or a little, words like bravo, oh, you've done such a great job, our spirits are somewhere lowered and we don't get the same enthusiasm again to perform it. He said, why do you expect? It's because you expect, you don't get it. Because you don't get it, you don't serve again. So when you take up such activities like putting up a medical camp or clinic, don't do it in the sense that I will get back something either from Bhagavan or Bhagavan will say something to me and then I will do second time. And don't ever, he told so emphatically to Hindulal Shah at that time, now don't come back to me. I don't want you to let them do a big job and then come and tell me that they have done it. I know everything, I am seeing everything. You don't have to formally come and tell me. That was another very important lesson I thought I would like to share with you. Mother Teresa, very fondly remembered today, and we have somebody who worked with her, how privileged Dr. Upadhyay is. I believe once Mother Teresa was crossing the street of Kolkata, a city in India, she happened to see a person in the drains of Kolkata, and that person's body was half decayed. He was just living for the sake of living. As soon as she saw him, she brought him to her ashram and started serving, cleaning the wounds. Those maggots were eating the body of that man. He was, almost half dead. But she was all doing service to him. And at that time, it was Mother Teresa's biographer, Mr. Malcolm, who happened to come and see. He was aghast. He said, oh, Mother, what are you doing? I wouldn't do this even for millions of dollars. Then Mother says, nor would I do it for millions of dollars, because I'm doing it for Jesus. That is the selfless service. What more example we want of selfless service that you have at hand? The points that Swami always drilled it into our head about service, he says, there are benefits of service. Mark them. And he said, it controls and purifies your mind, first thing. It helps you to put a ceiling on your desires. Third, it erases your karmic burden. A lot of karma can be erased off if we do selfless service. It removes the ego, even if little by little. And then he says, it brings a lot of love into our hearts, into our life. And then we experience the unity. The thought of unity that comes only when we do service more and more, So it leads to unity. Perhaps that's the best way to get the idea of unity, that is doing service. Finally, it helps us to win the grace of God. So this is all about how selfless service is done. And to just end this particular prerequisite, again, I would like to share another experience of mine. I had a work in one of the universities in southern part of India at one point of time. I had to go there. I'm talking about a state of Tamil Nadu. And this time, the time where I went was just after a few months of the great tsunami that had struck. And it did a lot of damage. You all are aware of that. And having gone there all the way, I was intensely trying to go and see those villages which were very badly affected. I had a friend with me, and then I requested her if she could take me. So she was willing to take me, and then we both went to one of those villages which was, very badly damaged. And it was so, I felt so sorry to see. It was like, half the water was inside the village, and hardly any huts, any buildings. And then I looked at the sea, I was standing at the shore of the sea, and I looked inside, and I saw so many temple structures and buildings were submerged halfway, so miles inside the sea. It was really something very, something I felt very sad to see. And then there were some fishermen around, and then I called them and I was asking them about their experiences, and they were telling in detail like how that horrible day was and how it really struck their lives. They lost so many of their family members and so many things they were telling. And then at one point of time, one of the fishermen, he said, you know what? Even before somebody came to help us, a lot of people from Sai Baba's ashram came and helped us. So I got a little interested, Of course, they couldn't tell me more than this. So that evening, I went and met the center president in that area, and I wanted to know something more about the service, what kind of service they did. So it was something amazing that I heard from him. He said, before I tell you what it was, I would like you to talk to those people directly, those that did the service. I said, sure. And then he called for a meeting, and who came to talk to me was none other than young boys, boys of aged 14 and 15, not even some elderly gentlemen or people of that age, A handful of young guys came to me, and then they said that, yes, we are the one who did. I said, what kind of service did you do? They said, you know what we did? And I was told that the main service that they did, the first thing that they did was to remove the dead bodies, the piles of dead bodies that were piled up there at that time from these villages. So what they do was, they would hire a tractor, they would pile up all the dead bodies, and they would take them to the outskirts of the villages. They will light fire to those bodies, pray for those bodies, sing bhajans for them, and come back, take the next trip and the next trip. This went on for more than 2-3 weeks, I believe, just to clear the area that were covered by the dead bodies. Nobody to claim, nobody to even do the last rites for those bodies. And who did it? Swami's messengers did it. It was so, we feel so proud even to mention these things. And then these boys, I said, well, what a wonderful service you did. But then you were saying you did it day and night. Were you not scared to take these bodies right behind you in the middle of the night and crossing, sometimes driving 2-3 hours? They said, you know what? Every moment we felt Swami was there with us. And we would sing bhajans loudly, and we would chant some shlokas all through, so that at least at this moment their souls are at rest. And then we would do this. What to talk about love in action? What more to talk? And then I asked, I'm so humbled after hearing what you've done. Okay, now tell me, what did you do next when you went to Swami? What did he say? They said, we never went. I said, what? You never went to meet Swami after doing such a great service? No. Why should we go and tell Swami? He was there all the time with us. There was no necessity for us to go and tell him about this. How many of us really think of this, recognition? We really don't need to be recognized. If you do it from the heart, it is done. We should think next time about it, that we have done it. So that's how it should be taken, I feel. That is about selfless service. So Swami says, when you do service, don't ever think that you are the savior. You are not the savior. You are just a helper. You are guided by somebody to do it. And then he says, yes, when you lift a downtrodden, you feel that you have done it. It gives you a joy. But don't sit with that. You look at Swami and look at Swami's picture and thank him for having allowed you to do that. Every time you do an act, look back, look at his photo and say, thank you, Swami, that you allowed me to do this. So by doing this, we are making us aware at all times that we are not doing the service. It is somebody else who is doing. So that way, perhaps, we bring a lot of transformation through these services. Transformation. Now here Swami says, how will this transformation come to you? When you take up a service, your enthusiasm, they should be guided in a right direction. Don't think that it will be a pleasure. No act of service is a pleasure. It is fraught with pain, difficulties, challenges. Then only it is a service. If it was so easy, like feeding a person with a spoon, it would not have been really service. And that is not the service that Swami wants us to do. He says it is a service that will reform you. Therefore, you have to take the pain. You have to do it. So do not even think that you are reforming the world, you are reshaping the world, you are the savior, you are the person who has come to do it. So these are the things which these are knocked in our brains, anytime, whenever any service activity would be there, these are the things he used to tell us at all times, So he said, help as much as you can, as efficiently as you can, as silently as you can, and as lovingly as you can, and then leave the rest to God. So after doing this, leave the rest to God. So that was one thing. So reshaping, all that is not important. Once again, to quote Mr. Indulal Shah, he said, whenever you do a service, do not think what you are doing to the service, or what kind of return you get, but you always think of what service is doing to you. So that's how far, like every act of service you do, next you ask a question: have I become a better person? Have I reduced my ego a bit? Have I become more loving? If you don't get answers from your own heart, that means you have not done a service. So every service is actually a test, an examination, every act of service. And after that, you question yourselves and get the results, whether you have done it or not. So that is the way to reform, transform, and make ourselves better. That's the best way to inform. What to talk about our Lord, who is involved in this incessant service for 85 long years. And how many more? He speaks, he acts, he breathes service. That is our Lord. Who else can teach us? Who else can talk? Who else can guide us? We are so fortunate that we are walking on earth at this moment of time when our Lord is walking, Lord is there. And that's the thing, that's the point we should remember, and take up selfless service. The next prerequisite, silent service. How do we perform silently? Not, as Doctor has mentioned, not a banner. No mass media. It is all done silently. That is the best example that I can give at this moment is the Grama Seva again. The service activity that is done every year in Prashanti Nilayam, and that is done under Swami's guidance by the students. I have been a participant in it, therefore I thought I will share some of my experiences. The Grama Seva that is done, if I tell you some of the details, you will be so surprised how things are going on there. Now here, it is like almost Swami has given a new meaning to the whole word of service by taking up this. Not that he used to not do service earlier. This service that I'm talking about, it all began in the year 2002. The whole set of, the whole infrastructure changed after this was taken up by Bhagwan. Earlier, people used to come to Prashanti Nilayam and Swami used to conduct Narayan Seva twice a year or once a year, whatever. And they used to be given food and clothes and they used to go back. Then, before this 2002 Narayan, the service activity, when Swami called us again for another interview and Swami was telling us, why I'm starting this? Because I realized there are so many old people, they are with disease, they are not able to walk all the way. Therefore, I have decided now onwards, you students and teachers will go to each house and serve them. He thinks of every one of us. He thinks of every villager. He thinks of every individual. He doesn't think only of one group or one person alone. Now, this service that I'm talking about, this is all about Anantapur district in Andhra Pradesh in India. And in a day, they cover some 1.5 to 2 lakhs of houses, 600 villages, so many big towns. And the food and the clothes that are taken, I tell you, you have to see to believe it, the amount that is spent. It would have been a great organization to have done this, but Swami does it with the same manpower, just a handful of students, let me tell you. No guide, no professionals to do this, and his guidance. That's all. But you ask about the quality, there is absolutely no compromise in the quality of service. Wonderful. And we as women students, we are not, students and teachers, we were not allowed to go to the villages and serve because Swami would always say, you are women, you should stay at home and do the work. And what is the work that we were given? To prepare the food for these seva activities. So what we did, it used to be during the time of, even now, during the time of October, November, when the students have their short vacation, winter vacation. And this will go on for 15 to 20 days sometimes a little lesser than that. And each night we would spend preparing the rice, mixing with some ingredients, some masala or some stuff, cooling it, then packing it into small packets, and then loading it into the vehicles. Those are going to be taken by the men students the next day. And there will be some 30-40 vehicles going in a particular day. And sometimes, we would do this the whole night, let me tell you. And our work would start sometime at 9 o'clock, 9 p.m. and it would go on till 7 a.m. Normally, if we don't get proper sleep in the night, even for a single night, you all know how it is. We feel nausea, indigestion, and the whole day, the next day, is totally spoiled. But let me tell you, at a stretch, we used to do this for weeks together without even a wink sleep in the night. And daytime, we were busy with darshan and bhajan and many other things. We would never get a chance to compensate, recoup the night sleep. But we carried on. And this is simply because of his immense grace, Bhagavan is all ours if we let ourselves in it. And that's what I have experienced it. And that's what it taught me. That is the village service that was done. And you ask the students, the joy, the enthusiasm that they have while doing this activity. Perhaps many of them haven't ever done this got a chance to do it. But Swami says you should learn to do it. You should learn to go to the villages and see how people live, what difficulties they are having. Then it will touch your heart. And that is the reason Swami, started this, I think, the mass transformation that actually is taking place at this moment, apart from the service activity. So here, when Swami used to do Swami used to say that, I am giving you a choice. Are you going to go, will you go home for the holidays or you will stay back and do Grama Seva? He knew very well the answer, but still he would, ask the students. Then all would say, no, Swami, we would stay back. And then Swami used to be so happy, and he said, very good, now join tomorrow. And then he would, to tell you very frankly, never Swami called us and said, oh, you didn't have night sleep? Oh, whole night you worked? Oh, that's very sad. Now go and sleep. Oh, whole day you went around? go and take some rest. Never he said that. Not that we wanted him to tell. I don't know if any one of us would have wanted him to tell that. He would never say that, because that will bring back all the spirit of service. Tomorrow we will expect the same from him, and only for that sake we will be doing service the next day, to get a word from Bhagwan. Therefore, he never apparently recognized our service, and I'm so thankful about that. I'm so thankful that I'm so happily remembering those moments that I spent. What a chance given by Bhagwan. What a wonderful chance at whatever level we were. It's not that, oh, we are ladies, oh, we are teachers, oh, we are Swami's teachers and students. We shouldn't do that, we shouldn't do that. Never. If it is service, it is for every individual. And that's how Bhagwan actually taught us. And to tell you the truth, they were not holidays, they were holy days. They were really transformed into holy days, those 15-20 days that we had a break from the college work. And this service really was like what Swami says, you are not doing Grama Seva, you are doing Rama Seva. Please remember that. And we were reminded of that we were serving actually the Lord, That was something very important. And the next requisite, the fourth one and the last one that I thought I'll share with you today is that Swami talks about quality service, not the quantity. How many villages you served, how many people you served, how much you served, how long you served, not at all important. All that is important is what quality service you have given. Be it just lifting a handkerchief from the ground and giving back to the person's hand, a very insignificant act. That could be a very wonderful act of service if it is done with whole heart, with the attitude. And here, again, I thought I will talk about another place which was devastated with earthquake, but I will not go to the details about it. Just the point I would like to draw here. A newspaper photographer was sent to that place to cover the area, the devastated area. And as he was trying to take pictures of every place, he noticed that there was a long line of these earthquake victims standing and receiving their relief items, So he went on clicking the photographs, and then he realized that there was a small girl of some maybe 12 or 13-year-old was also standing in the line waiting for her chance to come when she could be given her share. But at one point of time, the newspaper photographer also noticed that those that were serving, there was a kind of growing despair on their faces. And the reason being, the relief items were getting over, but the line was very long. So it went on, and finally this girl got her chance. But this girl, all the time that she was standing in the queue, she was not even looking elsewhere, but her eyes were all focused on other 3 children who were standing at across the street, smaller than her by age. So she was all the time looking at them. They were also famished, but they were not standing on the line. They couldn't. So what this girl did, when her turn came, all she received was a solitary banana that was left. Everything was over. She was so happy. She smiled her gratitude. She took that piece. She crossed the street, went to those 3 children, equally divided the banana into 3 pieces, gave them. And the peel that was left with her, she just sat quietly, and with a lot of contentment, she was licking the banana peel. What to talk of quality service? When the super specialty hospital was being constructed in Prasanthi Nilayam, a lot of people from all over the world wanted to serve in a way of, monetary way, or however, they wanted to donate money, they wanted to serve personally. So Swami used to receive letters per day, some thousands and more than thousands letters, just to, people used to ask him to give him a chance. But Swami used to just leave them. And why? Because Swami knew that whose karmas are working at that moment, only they would be allowed to serve. The whole world was actually wanted to serve, but Swami didn't accept everybody's service. And that time, there was a high school student from Swami school. He was listening to all the discourses and all the talks that were going on, and he was aware of the service that was going on at that time. And he thought at one point of time, why not I? Why can't I do something about it? But then he was very poor. He didn't have that money to even donate. So what he did was, he stopped he stopped giving his clothes to the washerman. He started washing and then saving that little money from that he had to give to the washerman. And somehow he collected just 100 rupees. And one day he put that money and he wrote a letter to Bhagwan. Dear Lord, you know I don't have anything, but I thought I should give something to this great cause that is coming up. So I have saved little money. Please accept this. Please don't think it is very less and ignore it. And I'll be very happy if you accept this little gift of mine. And as he went to the darshan ground and he sat, Swami was in the interview room. Swami rushed out of the interview room. He came to this boy and he took the letter. He smiled, and he said, thank you. And then he immediately went to the veranda where all the guests and the devotees, the VIPs or the students usually sit, the teachers and students. And he said, look, this is the real service. This boy. And then he narrated and narrated and narrated. It was not enough. He was going round to each and every devotee and telling the story of this boy, how he saved that 100 rupees, how it would have touched Bhagwan's heart. You can imagine. Just a little act of service. Swami said, it is nothing in front of those 100 million crores that is spent for the hospital construction. It is the quality of service. And that is recognized when Bhagwan is concerned or Bhagwan talks about service. I'm not sure if you've heard of a famous Sufi saint named Abu bin Adam. He was a great man as far as service is concerned. I'm not saying that he was a devotee of Bhagwan at that moment, but then he was a devotee of God, definitely. And what he would do is, whole life of his was just, rendered to service and service alone. He would go in the morning, serve the destitute, feeding the poor, whatever he had, he just spent his time serving. And one night when he came back from his service work, he saw an angel was writing something in his bedroom. And he goes there and he asks, oh mother, what is that you're writing? And then the angel tells him, I'm writing the names, I'm listing out the names of those who loves God. Is my name there? He was very curious. Then the angel said, I'm sorry, your name is not anywhere there. Again the next day, he came home and he saw the same angel sitting and writing something. And then again he asks, what are you writing? Then the angel said, I'm writing the name of those who God loves. Is my name there? Yes, your name is figuring at the top of the list. It is service. Now, Abu bin Adam became a recipient of God's love, all because of his dedicated service. So I think, if not at this moment when you are living with God, nothing actually touches Bhagwan. No prayer, no bhajan, no other thing but service. But service. A little act of service is enough. Umpteen examples we have heard from the honored speaker some time back, how Swami touches each one's hearts, and how he knows each person that is served. He doesn't forget anyone whatsoever. So, to conclude my talk, I just wanted to mention that service is not a duty. If we think it's a duty, then what will happen? It will be forced. And if we do it with that pressure that I have to do it, then tomorrow is the day I will not do it. So that pressure should not be there to do service. There shouldn't be any force, or not as a duty. If I say, oh, it's my duty to do it, somewhere there's a touch of some outside force which is giving a pressure for me to do the service. It should be totally, totally voluntary service. My will, my wish should be the foremost to do the service. That's one thing. Then he says, accept, recognize a service as an opportunity directly coming from God. Take it as an opportunity. Don't take it as a duty. It's a God-given opportunity. You got the best chance to transform yourselves at this moment because you are given this chance to serve. And then he says it is a benediction. And then he says, serving fellow men is a lifetime program. Don't think, okay, you have done today. Oh, when you were younger you did it, now you're old, you shouldn't do it. No, it's nighttime, I shouldn't do it. No, only daytime I should do it. No, it's the evening time. Perhaps this is not the right time. There is no right or wrong time. Every moment is a moment of service, he says. You get up from the, Swami says, try to serve them in your sleep. We were so wonderstruck how to serve people in one's sleep. He didn't mean that when we sleep. He meant that even if we are not aware of anything, but you become aware of the service act that is to be done, just give yourself in. And then he said, I am searching for one Hanuman again. I have not found yet. I am searching and searching and searching a real servant. So he hasn't found yet. We are still to prove ourselves. We are yet to stand. So that's how the service has to be done. And once again, though it is mentioned, but I would like to mention, there's a beautiful portrait in Super Speciality Hospital, those of you who visited, and just below the portrait, as you enter at the entrance, and then it says, Paropakararthamidam shariram. The whole body is given by God to us. It's all because of service. He says, don't worry, don't get scared. And very often he says, I am with you, I am with you. Remember me when you do the service. Don't think you are doing alone. You don't need anybody. You don't need any instrument. You don't need any other force to do it. It's all your willingness, your intention. If you have that, I'm there with you. So bring that in you. I am there to help you to do the service. I will provide everything. You don't have money? I will give you money to serve. Don't worry. You won't believe a little experience of mine, though it is a little insignificant, but I thought I shouldn't, as I said, everything is very significant when it comes to Swami. Once it happened that we were involved in one, as messengers of Sai, the ex-students of Swami's college, we have our own service activities. And we were planning to visit a leper colony, and we would visit it every week actually. But that week we thought we will do not just cook for them and feed them or something like that, but then we would sing for them, and we were preparing for a program. And each one of us were told that if we could make something for them, a gift. So I saw the previous time when I went, and I saw there were lots of children, so I thought I'll do something for the children. But believe me, at that moment, sometimes it happens with us. And when I figured it, I thought I should give to all the children and not just one. And there were some 60 to 70 children in the leper colony. And if I had to give them, I needed money, at least $1,000 and odd bucks to give something good. I didn't want to give one card or one flower, That would really not serve the purpose. I wanted to give real good gifts so that they can keep it, preserve it, play with it, and enjoy. And to do that, I needed little money. And that moment, I was broke. I don't know how it happened. I really didn't have the money with me. And I didn't want to borrow from others and do the service. I thought, I wanted to do a little bit of thing for somebody. Maybe Swami doesn't want me to do. And I was just trying to think, Swami, how else can I do it? I tried looking at all things and all possibilities. But no, I was running short of just 100 and 200 rupees, that's all. And I didn't want to do with that much of money also. I didn't want to compromise with my idea of doing something little lesser just because I have that much money. I was adamant. I said, Swami, I want to do something. Why can't you help me? And you were not helping me at this moment, though you talk so much about service. And I was a little angry with Swami, And then I was so heartbroken actually when they were planning to go for the service activity. I said, I'm not going. Then they said, how is it possible? You should also come because each one is given some work there and your part of work, who is going to do? I said, I'm not interested. Swami is not helping me with something. I didn't tell anybody, but then I knew it. And then they said, okay, we will go next week again. So you don't come, that's fine. And I saw they were ready to go. The 3 taxis were there. The teachers were already boarding them. They were about to leave. I was so disheartened. I came to the room. I sat. I looked at Swami's picture. I said, Swami, why did you not allow me to do this service today? Where did I go wrong? Did I have ego? Did I have something that is very unwelcoming? And that is why you didn't allow me to do this? And then I saw and I realized that it's only the money factor that was the reason. I said, Swami, was this the money that came on the way? And then I just kept quiet. And I thought, okay, let me go out for some other work. So I just opened my cupboard. 2 crisp new 100 rupees note fell from the cupboard. I generally don't keep money in that cupboard because that's for clothes. Crisp notes. I was broke. I didn't have any money. I tried everything. I would have opened that cupboard 100 times before that. Never 2 notes fell, but at that time they fell. I took them. I went to the market. Quickly, I bought those things, what I ordered. I made my way. They had already left, but I hired a vehicle. I left for the place. I didn't sit and think, oh, Swami, it was your gift or anything. I knew it was he who gave it. So it may appear something very simple, but then what I'm saying is that nothing is a hitch. Nothing is a barrier if you have the willingness to serve. And that's how Swami helps us. And that's what I thought I will share with you all today. Thank you so much, Saya. Thank you.
Spending the morning listening to the glories of Swami. As we heard both the speakers this morning, I was struck by a couple of things that I wanted to reflect upon. One, Sister Arunima mentioned the source being the same, the source being Sai, and how his teachings come through in different ways. And that has been Swami's teaching philosophy, if you will, for everyone right from children to adults. I remember many, many years ago, almost 4 decades ago, Swami was talking to a group of SSC teachers. And he asked the SSC teachers in that interview, if you have children sitting around in Balvikas in SSC, and if the children want water, what do you do? I said, well, we give them water. Now imagine if those 5 children sitting around you actually want juice. One child says orange juice, the other child says strawberry, the third child says lemonade. But you only have water, what do you do? Teachers started thinking. Then Swami said, it's simple. For the child that wants orange juice, take an orange-colored glass and pour water in it. For the child that wants lemonade, take a yellow-colored glass and pour water in it. The child thinks it's drinking lemonade or orange juice or what have you, but you're giving the child what it needs. That's how I teach. I know that the cure for all human ills is love. Yet people come to me for different kinds of needs. But in every single act of mine, all that I give is love in different forms. I was also struck by both speakers reminding us that the recipient of service is not really the individual in front of us, but God Himself. Almost half a century ago, Narayan Seva was being conducted in Prashanti Nilayam. Professor Kasturi was in charge of coordinating the Narayan Seva that day. It was a festival day. And after the entire morning where thousands had been served food, Swami came back to the inner quarters and Professor Kasturi beamed and said, "Swami, such a wonderful service." Swami smiled and Professor Kasturi said, "Swami, this is what Daridra Narayana Seva means." The word Daridra Narayana had been coined by Swami Vivekananda almost a century ago, where he said, poor in the form of God. And then Swami said, "Kadu Kadu, not Daridra Narayana, Narayana Himself. They are not poor in the form of God, they are God Himself that you serve." And so Bhagavan constantly reminds us that the equation that Manava is Madhava or Grama is Rama, that anything that we do is but for Him. Mother Teresa used to say, love in order to be real must hurt, must empty you out of yourself. And that process of emptying oneself, ridding oneself of the ego has to hurt, but that is the purpose of love. Because at the end, as a great Sufi saint, Rahim Khan once said, "Prem gali ati sakari, usme do na samaye. Jab main tha to hari nahi, ab hari hai to main nahi." The path of love is very narrow. Two people cannot walk on it together. When I existed, the Lord wasn't there. Now the Lord exists, I am not.